And welcome to the programme. Now, on March the 27th, Russian law enforcers in occupied Crimea conducted mass raids of homes of 25 or so Crimean Tatars. Now, at least 20 Crimean Tatars have been arrested, and supposedly they were suspected of supporting the ut-Tahrir organisation, which is banned in Russia. Now, the majority of them are activists of the Crimean Solidarity initiative, which helps political prisoners and their families, and reports human rights abuses as well. Now, to talk more about this, pleased to say we're joined in the studio today by Bohdan Kryklyvenko, co-founder of the Ukrainian Institute of Human Rights. Bohdan, thank you for coming in. So really, this was we were covering this in the past few days, and this was a huge raid that happened earlier in the morning. We had Mr. Polozov, Nikolai Polozov, a lawyer who came into us recently, and he said that partly this raid could have been down to the fact that there are presidential elections coming in Ukraine, and this could have been an act of intimidation for the Crimean Tatars who were perhaps thinking of crossing this de facto border between Crimea and mainland Ukraine. Do you agree with that? Do you think that's the case, or what's the purpose of these raids?
Yeah, it could be. I think so that it could be the reason for this is the biggest raid for the last 5 years of occupation of Crimea, and the searches in 27 houses in the same time. It started at 5:30 a.m. early in the morning. Then the majority of people still sleeping, and so of course the next reason for that is to keep the atmosphere of the fear on the Crimea Peninsula, and to show that the Russian law enforcement occupied authorities, they will keep the pressure to any type of reaction or pro-Ukrainian activities, because we know that you already correctly said that the majority of people were the active participants of Crimean Solidarity unity. It's informal coalition of the people who jointly tried to help to the Crimean Tatars and to Ukrainians who already in detention. And I want to remind that we already have the 33 Crimean Tatars in detention on the same grounds and on the same reasons what we saw in official publication.
We've seen this time and time again, haven't we? It's exactly the same reason all the time.
Yeah,
like
it's a system of violation of human rights against such national minority as Crimean Tatars.
Yes, and what's I mean, how do you think the international community have reacted to this? Because actually, I saw quite a lot of reaction on Facebook, and it was discussed by the EU. I think they actually gave a statement, so did the US Embassy in Kiev. So this is a positive sign, actually.
So it's, if you can find something positive, yes, it could be in this story. But I also want to say that the group of 8 NGO in Ukraine also published a statement with call to international society, to international governments and to international organizations, that we call them to made such statements, as we already saw from the Brussels, and to follow the policy and to build new sanctions against the person who provides such violation of human rights in Crimea. So now we already has a discussion about such a big law, type as Magnitsky law, which we already have, but on the ground related to the human rights violation against Ukrainians and Crimean Tatars in Crimea and in the Russia. So we stand on the position that the international society should make their clear position, they should make their statements, and they should show their position in such cases.
Yeah, and I think what was really interesting about this particular incident as well, and it was very well covered on our channel, we had quite a few reports about this, was that Crimean Solidarity actually plays now a huge role in helping show these violations that are taking place, because often they happen in rural areas. sometimes obscure times of the day. So a lot of the mobile phone footage could be used as evidence, for example, in future trials or these sorts of things. So can you tell us a bit about the role that sort of Crimea Solidarity has played, actually, and what it really does?
They played a crucial role, crucial positive role, because also I want to remind that all meetings of Crimea Solidarity was followed by the sometimes searchers in the meeting room of Crimea Solidarities, and we previously saw pictures and video how the law enforcement provides such very negative relations to any activities of Crimea Solidarity. Yeah. So they try to keep any information related to the violation of human rights in Crimea and pass it to Kyiv and to international society community to try at least to show any alternative information from the state policy and state Russian propaganda, because we know that still till today we don't have any international monitoring mechanism
there's no one there
present in Crimea, because everybody is banned and not UN, not Council of Europe, OSCE, nobody's present in Crimea. So, and we don't have any alternative channels for information from Crimea. And here was the crucial role of Crimea Solidarity, who collected information, collected evidences, tried to gather the society, pro-Ukrainian society in Crimea, and to help the families of the person who are already in detention. And so, of course, they...
Is that through legal support,
Of course,
or that sort
yes,
of thing?
for different types.
And I remember, actually, there was a case when they collected money. I think they were collecting coins to pay for the legal fees of one of the detained, and they had these huge sort of bags that they were paying with.
Yeah, it was the action that please take 10 penny or something like that minimum money, and to bring all of them, just to show the absurd of all activities of the Russian law enforcement in Crimea, who try to build and to keep the atmosphere of the fear in Crimea.
So what do you think happens next now with these 20 or so Crimean Tatars who were detained? Because Mr. Polozov said that probably about half of them will be still in custody by May the 15th. And even this process is still going on, so it's a changing situation. But what have you heard?
Yeah, unfortunately, we already have on the same ground 33 Crimean Tatars in detention, just because their participation in legal, from the Ukrainian legislation position, activity in legal, absolutely normal organization as Hizb ut-Tahrir. But since 2003, such religious organization in Russia is banned. And that's the clear ground for such activities. But of course, we see that here is just the first line evidence that it could be the activities in such religious organization. But in the real, of course, it's the willingness to block the activities of Crimean Tatars and the Crimea Solidarity organization. And I don't have any optimistic vision that this already person who in detention, they will be released. So the big and strong machine of Russian law enforcement and Russian propaganda will work on the same ground what we already saw in many cases of Ukrainians and Crimean Tatars for the last 5 years.
Yeah, and it's not just adults as well, but also children. I know Rafat Chubarov, who's quite high up in the Mejlis of the Crimean Tatar people, a Ukrainian MP, he said that today 55 more children have joined are 113 children of those political prisoners have already been in prison. He told us to a Ukrainian TV channel. So I kind of I get the idea that they're using this ut-Tahrir organization as just a reason for detaining them. Is there any proof that they were part of this organization that's banned in Russia or not?
I think that you're absolutely correct, that it's only the first ground, but the general, they have a lot of tasks how to block any pro-Ukrainian activities in Crimea. So even if you are not a member of such religious organization, but you in the next days you will think twice before you will be very active in standing for human rights in Crimea. Yeah. So this is the main idea.
When you talk about pro-Ukrainian activities, what could that include? Can you give a couple of examples?
Yeah, so we can speak about from very simple things. The Mr. Volodymyr Balu, who already a lot of months is in detention, he was kept just for taking the Ukrainian flag on his house. This is like showing of the protest of the people who are not recognizing any Russian power on Crimea Peninsula. So it could be from such type of activities even to more serious as collecting evidences for international courts, for example, for International Court of Justice, who located in Hague, and in the June we will have the hearings related to the big application of Ukraine against Russia Federation on the ground of violation of Convention of Elimination of all form of discrimination. So this is a classical evidences how the Russian authorities are violating the human rights, the rights of Crimean Tatars as an ethnic group, an ethnic minority, who together with their main authorities, Majlis, standing on the pro-Ukrainian positions.
Okay, well, Bohdan, thank you very much for coming in and for all your work, and I'm sure we'll have updates on the story as and when they come in. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. That was Bohdan Kryklyvenko, co-founder of the Ukrainian Institute of Human Rights. Thanks for watching and stay tuned for more on UATV.